Hello, and welcome to Midweek Gaming, episode number 71. We have returned from the summer hiatus and me potentially quitting podcasting, but that never happened. I'm back with a vengeance now, with Midweek Gaming. And one funny thing I noticed, I went to change the banner from Midweek Gaming 70 to Midweek Gaming 71. And funny enough, Luke Steele was our last guest. So I just changed the number.
That's way to be.
And we have Luke on this week to talk about the CMA Microsoft Activision Blizzard. As if nobody knows, Luke's about to tell you what he does kind of for a job. He's an expert in the field.
It's just a topic that he doesn't really speak about that often in terms of that, is it, mate?
Welcome,
not.
Luke.
No. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know, experts pushing it, but yeah,
well,
certainly.
Compared to the average person, it's kind of your field. It is.
Yeah. Corporate mergers and acquisitions law. And I've been involved in CMA related stuff before, like this. Not quite this size, but quite big. Yeah, it's all very interesting, and everybody has a different kind of reaction to it, But it's provided some juicy news, I think. And obviously, just before we went live, we've got kind of the continual follow up. It seems to be from all of this stuff, which is interesting. So
yeah, it'd definitely be interesting to talk about and get your thoughts on it. And you could probably explain little bits of it about how it works and stuff, because it's quite complicated. A lot of this stuff is to the average person. It is. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Luke.
Very welcome.
And Cerebral Paul, welcome back. How you doing?
Oh, thank you.
It's been a while.
I am doing pretty good. Yeah, it's been quite a while, actually. Yeah.
It has.
Yeah. It was funny that same week that you took a break, the other show was on, took a break, and it's like,
did it?
So I've had some
Which show was
downtime this summer. I've had some downtime.
A lot of shows seem to have done it this summer. A lot of shows have. Xbox Live Party Podcast did as well. They did. But there isn't a lot to talk about in the summer, really. There isn't, to be honest. But yeah.
Well, there was around the show. There was around the show times, but yeah, there's been no real major upsets or anything. Yeah. There's been some weird stuff, but nothing,
Yeah. Oh, there has. Yeah, there has. So yeah, welcome, Pixel Slapper, UK Dazarus, Masuku. Yeah, I caught up with your test stream, Daz, of the Dazcast. Great little show. It turned into a proper little podcast. It was good to hear you, to see the Dazcast back. So, and removable sanity. Welcome back. I hope we will hear the helicopter, and also I
try not to do that.
He does excellent reviews, but if you want tips on how to save electric and gas energy, don't go to Martin Lewis. Go to removable sanity. This man, he knows how to save energy.
That's because I'm
Isn't
poor.
that right?
There's anybody that knows about gas, it's removable. Yes, that's
well, yeah. That also comes. Yeah, I'm a good producer of that. Yeah. But it's It's one of those things. When you're poor, you kind of learn. Well, I think I sent you the meme. It's like everyone else is new poor. I'm old poor. Yeah. I grew up what would basically been I'd be like the old caravan site. That's where I came from. So.
But yeah, it's good to have you back on. It is.
Oh.
It is. And Animated Evil may be here. He may not be. I'm not sure. But
I think he said he was getting some juicy Gears 6 topics to come through.
Oh, jeez.
No comment on that. To be honest, I don't actually talk. You may not believe it. I haven't talked about Gears in about 4 or 5 podcasts. I don't talk about it generally anymore.
Just through the DMs.
You may be able to persuade me. I mean, if you want to mention this topic, I don't know what you guys feel on it, but apparently, Undead Labs are receiving help from the Coalition to help them with the Unreal 5 engine. I'd imagine they're teaching them how to work the Unreal 5 engine for what's their next game is? Oh, what's it called? What's their next game? Zombie game, isn't it? Undead Labs.
State of Decay 3.
State of Decay 3. Now that game, because do you remember when that trailer came out? That was incredible. So that would have to be
CGI, though, wasn't it?
Oh, no, I understand it was CGI. Welcome to Save the Game Media, the Muffin Mon. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, you guys got any thoughts on the coalition helping out with this game? I know there's not a lot to say on it, but it's good to see them helping each other out. Got any thoughts on that, Luke? Yeah. I was just getting to Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good news for them. I mean, I think if Undead Labs are not particularly great at one thing, it's probably visuals. Their games aren't visually the strongest in the world, but I think it looks like that, for all accounts, they've got a bigger team, bigger budget for this one, using UE5, and who better really to help them than kind of the masters of the Unreal Engine as it was. So, I think it makes sense, and should be a really good looking game as a result, I would think. Hopefully they improve the animations as well. But I think it's quite exciting news, actually. It's not like major news, but it's something that's quite interesting.
Oh, it is interesting because I think that speaks to anyone that thinks State of Decay 3 is coming soon. I'm sorry to tell you, if Coalition are helping them, I think you're a couple of years away, because it's okay for the Coalition, but you got to think all them devs have got to learn the UE5. It's not as simple as everyone thinks. Do you know what I mean? It's obviously, I think they make customizations, don't they, for the studio, but I don't think you've still got to learn the system, haven't you? It's something new to them. So
But they've said they have said that UE5 UE5 is a lot easier to learn. That the learning curve isn't that high, and it makes it actually quicker for the devs to crank stuff out. I'm hoping what we're going to see, like Luke said about the graphics and stuff, they're probably hopefully diving into what they did for Hivebusters, because we all remember how beautiful Hivebusters was compared to the original years. Yeah.
But also, haven't they been working on UEA5 for a little bit? It's been out technically for people to mess around with for about almost 6-7 months. So it's not as if it's like fresh. Oh my god, here's a brand new software.
No, the coalition's been using it for a while. We even think they used some of the early stuff for Hivebusters. That's where they kind of got a little bit of their cutting their teeth in with it. So it all looks good. Hopefully it'll make because I'm actually a big fan of State of Decay. I thought it was a great game, but the graphics need a lot of help. So hopefully they can make it just that much better.
It's good to hear, because Hivebusters was it. From what I understand, it wasn't Unreal 5. It was Unreal 4 point something. It wasn't. So if they can do that, what's it?
They had some of the tools from Unreal 5. They had some of the tools from Unreal 5 at that point, but not a fully functional.
They had some bits and bobs. They did, but they know what they're doing. On its guard, he's the man that makes the thumbnails. Yep, don't worry about that, mate. TC were the first company to get their hands on it. Yes, that's true.
Yep.
What do you reckon, Removal? It's all good news. It is.
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, anything that's going to help out the coalition, maybe bring in some fresh ideas, maybe bring in some. When I say ideas, I'm talking about maybe shortcuts or different ways that might be a little bit more streamlined, is going to be a beneficial to the game itself. To be honest with you, unless of course there's too many too many chefs spoiling the broth, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they've brought them in because they know exactly what they're going to be dealing with. They've probably been given a particular aspect of the game, and it's like, right, can you focus on this aspect for us whilst we sort out the other elements? It could be, I don't know, multiplayer, or it could be just the visual aspects, or it could be, the ping or anything like that. I suppose they're giving them probably just one thing they can, really dive and stick their teeth into. That's my gut feeling. So I think this is going to only probably benefit the game, but again, I'm going to hold a little bit of a reservation until I see more about it, which I'm hoping they'll probably release a little bit more details about this soon, maybe in the next month or so. I would like them to be a bit more transparent in terms of what they're dealing with and what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to hear updates that using Unreal 5. I mean, I would have liked to have seen. I know we get a bit of backlash here, but I would have liked to have seen Halo in the Unreal 5 engine. That'd have looked cool, but they've gone a different direction. So,
but did they say they didn't say they're not doing it, isn't it?
What's that?
They didn't say they're not. I mean, the Halo is doing different aspects, but they haven't come out right and say they're not going to do anything in Unreal 5, isn't it? Am I correct in that?
Well, Halo uses their own a brand new engine, a brand new which I think is all the crap Halo's getting. And I'm just going to throw this out there. I think that's part of what happened is they bit off more than they could chew. They're trying to learn a new engine and get it. They had all these great ideas to do this, that, and the other thing without knowing whether the engine can do it. And I think that's what they're running into. So it's going to be interesting to see how they decide to deal with that now. Yeah.
Oh, I agree with you. Making a graphics engine is a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
And even with the Unreal Engine, when they started making Unreal Engine, even they had team. They didn't. Epic Games did not start out as experts at making graphics. Obviously, at the time, it was a masterpiece, but they take years to perfect and get right and stuff. It's not something anyone can just do. But it's something.
Oh yeah, for us old people, for us old people, Unreal, the original Unreal was amazing. When they first, the original game was just incredible.
Yeah. It was. The mean removables made me say it now. Gears 1 was the. I believe it was in the book I've got for the Gears of War franchise. I believe it was the official tech demo was Gears of War 1, the showpiece. It was for that. So that was the showpiece back then. But it's not something. It's not an easy feat what they're trying to do at the 343 Industries. It's something they may live to regret, or maybe in the future it'll pay off and it'll be the best engine ever. Who knows?
Yep.
Time will tell.
It's not even technically entirely new. It's still based on the Blam engine, which was the engine that Bungie made. Yeah, they made a big hoo-ha about it, and obviously there is a lot of new stuff that's been introduced to the engine, but fundamentally at its core, it's still the Blam engine. They just give it a rename and kind of ramped it up.
But I was going to say they definitely ramped it up because the functionality of especially the multiplayer and just the way that Master Chief moves and the controls and everything is so much more fluid. It really is. And I've said it when it first released. I've never been a big Halo fan because of the multiplayer and the way. But this felt totally different. As soon as I hit that multiplayer, it's like, wow, this feels so much cleaner. I'm still very bad at it, but it is.
You can hit a target now instead of not hitting a target. Is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, the BR is my favorite gun. Even though most people don't like it, I love the BR.
They can't make more than 2 maps a month, really. Then, isn't it? It's the next thing they need to get good at.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're waiting on the community for that. For when they release Forge, we let the community do it for us. There we go. There's been some incredible maps made, though. There's people that are using Forge. I can't remember what his name is on YouTube and Twitter. He's made some incredible stuff in that Forge. The potential for the community is unreal. It really is.
I think
it really unlocks the game. It will.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, if you were an original Halo fan, that was the thing. It was the stupidity you could enjoy. That was the main thing. So it was. Forge is one of its core components. The stupidity, the aspect of it was. It just brought so many people into the game, and I think whether rightly or wrongly, not putting Forge in at the beginning, I think that could have helped a little bit, but it sounds like they really wanted to, as you said, iron out any potential problems with Forge at the moment. That's why I've probably taken a bit more time with it, because I think when it hits, people are going to absolutely love it. After they've seen the reaction of Halo, I think they want to take a bit more time with Forge, because again, it's one of those core components that really brings a community together.
Well, to be honest, need to take time with everything they do now. They have to be really sure.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. Sorry to say, it doesn't matter what 343 does now. They get backlash regardless. Now it doesn't matter. So if you're going to delay it, just delay it and make it as good as you can. I haven't tried Halo in ages. Luke's the one that could comment on the game more. I don't know if you play it a lot, Paul, or not. I don't know. But
I know I haven't. I only play it in spurts. I only play it in spurts when my friends go, "Hey, let's go play Halo," and then I'll jump on for maybe a week or so, and then I'm done. It's
fair enough. I haven't played.
Yeah, I think the problem is that they're not going to be able to. Forge is really cool. It looks great. It's not going to lead to a big increase in player base for the game. I think they've kind of missed the boat on that. Now, the only thing that will salvage that is whatever this battle royale mode is, and when that releases, they'll get a good boost from that. But it's taken them too long.
Yep, I think if they really want to try to rescue it, they need to try to pull everybody back. Not only do they need to do the battle royale stuff and the multiplayer stuff, but a good solid DLC for the single player also would be good to just go back into the game. Because once they're in the game and you're playing Halo, let's go play some multiplayer. Let's go check out Forge. Okay, cool. Let's go. Yeah, exactly. I think it needs to be a 1-2 punch to pull people back, not just one or the other. Especially because single player, we all know, is one and done. Once you're done with that, for the most part, you set it down again. Just like once I finished Hivebusters, I haven't been back to Gears except for a few multiplayer matches, but I don't go back to that single player game. There are some games I do, but Gears isn't one of them.
I wouldn't blame you, Paul. It's quite toxic. The multiplayer is. It can be quite as well.
I only play with people I know, and I've told you that before. I refuse
players
to play
with shotguns are normally the worst. You got to avoid them.
Yeah,
those guys who only play with shotguns. Don't go near them. They're very toxic.
But in Destiny, I don't use shotguns. I don't. But yeah, Luke's quite good with the opinions on Halo. Plays it quite often. He does.
the face there was like, maybe.
Yeah. Less and less nowadays.
Kind of an addiction. He's like.
I still remember one of the last times I played. We were playing, multiplayer, and I died and I spawned and I looked and there were 5 of the enemies standing right. It was like a firing squad. I'm like, okay, this spawn point really sucks. They really need to work on that somehow. Yeah.
I don't know. I think for me, I kind of lost it because it was weird because I played the beta, and I think I even said when I tweeted after playing it, I was like, "This is a fantastic multiplayer."
Because I remember
I think you said launched
along the lines of
and then
I think you said something like, "This is the game. This is going to be it." You're going to pull me in.
The progression of it was for me perfect. It was the progression, all that essence, all those little bits. And then when it launched, it was like, what the hell have they done?
Yeah.
What happened? It's like they went back about 12 steps. It's like, I got the alpha version when they launched. I don't know. It's like, stick with what you had at the beta, because that was really, really fun. I was like, this is, as you said, it's going to pull me in. Absolutely. And then literally when it launched, I played a couple of rounds of the multiplayer and I was like, no, not interested. This has killed it. I don't know what they did. For me, it just went like, dropped off tremendously. The progression was pointless. The rewards for it were pointless. It just didn't feel what was the original beta version. And I was like, okay, there you go. And at that point, I kind of like fluttered away, really.
Yeah, a lot of people did, to be honest. But I think you've got to be. I think the people that are still playing it now are like pretty much a hardcore, like. People that still play Gears. I'm not hardcore. I haven't played Gear in months, but now I might have to give it a go Mate, I'm mainly playing Destiny at the minute. I am.
Well, in my case, there are just so many different games that I bounce around between that it's easy for me to go from one to the other.
There's too many.
I've been playing a lot of Diablo 3 right now. I'm ready for Diablo 4. Let's go. That's it.
Nice. But yeah, it's a little bit of Halo talk there. Yeah, Pixel, we do try not to do the old clickbait bullshit you see all over Twitter, YouTube. Sorry.
I was going to say, Pixel, you know me. If you want an honest opinion, ask me. I'm not going to float. I'm not going to float around it. And I'm also not going to be let's sack everybody who's screwing up, because as far as I'm concerned, we don't know what the problems are. The developers don't tell us why they canceled split screen or whatever. We don't know what's going on. So you can't sit there and say, well, they just don't know what they're doing. How do you know? You have no idea the kind of issues they're dealing with. Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you see that? The glitch, Paul, where if you do a certain configuration, you can get it to work in split screen co-op.
Oh no, I did not see that.
Yeah.
There's a glitch. There's a glitch within the game. If you do a certain sequence, you can play split screen co-op. You can. There's a video on it.
That sounds to me as if it was almost ready, and then something game breaking. They found something game breaking. Went, oh crap, that's it. Cancel it. Because when I saw that tweet of where you see him playing, he said, he said there was no lag. There was little in terms of issues of it. There must be a game-breaking bug in it for him to go, no, we're not doing it now.
That potentially could have been why the glitch is working. I'd imagine that 343 have seen the glitch, and you'll probably get a patch soon, so it won't work.
Now, here's what's interesting. If you go back to the Medium, I don't know if all of you played the Medium at all.
Yep.
When it did its split screen sequences, it was actually running 2 instances of the game at the same time. Yep. It was not one instance that was getting split. It was actually 2. So theoretically, they could do that to something like Halo. The problem is, how do you keep track of where each player is across both instances? Because they don't just want you to be able to run around all over the map and do all the missions without the other guy. They expect you to work together.
Yeah, exactly. Also, that would be. You think you can get that at 60 frames per second to get 2 Halos running at the same time at 60 frames per second?
Maybe
it'll be a very hot. It'll be a tough push to go for.
It depends on how much. It depends on how much of the resources it actually took for the Medium to do that. We don't know.
Well, as I said, the Medium they were. I think it was 1080p and it fluctuated sometimes to 900p.
Yeah.
But remember, that was as you said, there was two different games, but that was the third person.
Yeah.
With limited action and elements going on.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying the technology is there once they can get it hammered out. There's so much they could do with that.
I don't know. Maybe it's something they're going to throw in at the last minute and surprise us.
Well, no, they've already said it's cancelled outright. They've already said it's cancelled outright.
Oh, have they? I've kind of missed that. So they've actually just no, that's it. We're done now.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
Oh, bugger.
After promising it would be a core feature of every Halo moving forward before Infinite.
A core feature? All that word core? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you never use that word core.
343 strikes again, I'm afraid.
And I think it does come down to they bit off more than they could chew before they understood what their limitations were. I really do.
Yeah, because the problem is though, because I don't think Halo Infinite started out as a live service game. I think what happened is they realised the project was too big, and if you come out with it's a live service game, it's kind of an excuse. I don't think when they envisioned Halo Infinite, I don't think it was going to be a live service. I think that's something they came up with later on when they realised it wasn't.
Go on.
No.
I was about to say,
right.
do you think it would have worked better if it had been a next gen only title?
Should really be a next gen only, but then again, you're cutting off all the people, global pandemic, etc., that can't get It's not really fair. But then again, there's trade-offs, isn't there? It's hard. It's difficult. That one. It's I don't know what to say about that, but maybe there'll be less problems. But I'd still think there'll still be problems too.
Oh yeah, there would have still been problems. The fact that we've only had 3 seasons in what 2 years or a year is pretty telling that something is going on there. Like I said, I'm not ready to say these people need to be fired or whatever. I'm just saying, because they're never going to tell us what's really going on back there. But somebody needs to figure out what's the best way to go about this, and maybe being more transparent with the user base, us, is what they need to do. Here's the problem we're running into. We're working on it. We're doing the best we can, instead of this vague stuff that leaves everybody going, well, these people are just screwing up. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Transparency is hard for studios because...
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act.
Yeah, it is hard. Like years ago, when Destiny was under Activision, they really weren't transparent. They used to make public statements. When companies make them statements, it sounds like we are listening, but it reads like we're not really listening at all. We're doing exactly what we want to do. It's a hard one. It is. Welcome to a friendly pest. Back from
no. Don't welcome that little jerk. Do not welcome him after what he posted.
He loves you. He loves you.
Yeah. No, look at what his friendly pest posted. No.
Look what he's put in the chat.
Oh, pineapple Paul. Oh, say now. Yeah.
Sawed off, unfriendly pest. Okay, that's the English term, right? Sawed off. Yeah.
But yes, he'll give you a hug later. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on to it's not a big topic because I know there's not a lot of PlayStation gamers on the show tonight. It's one for Luke, really. You can all chime in if you've watched it. What did you think to the new God of War Ragnarok footage?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a bit annoying on the one hand. No. It made it very suitably Kratos-like. I mean, it was a bit annoying because I think Game Informer got 4 minutes of footage and they've kind of released these little mini clips of the game from that 4 minutes. They've kind of broken it up. So it's kind of irritating to one extent because you've got like these 2-minute videos that they have where they're doing like, I think the last one was about one of the new areas in Ragnarok. But they the footage is only maybe 50 seconds long, so they just loop it, over 2 minutes while they're talking. So, but nonetheless, I mean, it looks great. It looks it looks really good. It looks, like a souped up God of War 2018, which is exactly what I was expecting. I think the stuff they're doing in combat.
Sorry, you wasn't expecting Gears of War? No. So a lot of gamers go, oh well, Gears look like Gears, and God of War look like God of War. But yeah,
but it's the Horde mode that's going to really sell it. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Horde mode in God of War.
Mode.
That's it.
Yeah, the Horde mode in God of War is going to be the pinnacle thing, isn't it?
One last achievement Luke can't get because it's that difficult. No, but he will get it.
That wouldn't actually be a bad idea for a God of War game, like a little Horde mode inside it. I think that'd be quite fun. Oh. Yeah, I think that'd be quite good with the combat.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, the footage looked really great. The new area looks really cool. It's just one of the new areas, but it looked really cool. They're doing a lot of environmental puzzle stuff, which I think is cool. Obviously, the combat's, I think, the big kind of upgrades there, where you've got new abilities, new buttons really that they've mapped, new things you can do. And it, like I said, it just looks like it kind of looks like not quite as dramatic, but Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2, where they had a great game. I mean, admittedly, a lot better than Uncharted was, and they've just refined it and added to it, and are trying to make it bigger and better. I think the only criticism that I think most people had about God of War 2018 that I saw was, there was some boss recycling sometimes. And I think if they can move that, if they can get rid of that, which is something they've said they've really focused on to try and get more bosses, more varied bosses, bigger bosses, then I think that's the only criticism that I had that I wanted them to address. But this footage looks great, and obviously, I mean, it's Santa Monica Studio. They're, one of the best studios in the world, I think. So I'm sure they will deliver. And yeah, then we'll see what happens next.
It does look great, but I didn't realise they'd done that. So they've kind of basically chopped up the footage to try and get more views on more videos, basically. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, so rather than release like one video of 4 minutes of footage, they've gone like, okay, Game Informer have gone, we'll do a little mini video about combat, and we'll take some of the footage and put it in that for combat, and then we'll do another video about the new area. I think there's another video still to come. I don't know what that's on. So they're kind of releasing it maybe once a week at the moment, but they only got 4 minutes. So. Yeah, it's to keep people involved, and you do look forward to it because you always look forward to seeing new footage of a game. Obviously, Ragnarok, we haven't seen any pure gameplay footage from before. They've had a gameplay trailer where you get little bits of it, but in terms of any extended amount of footage, we haven't seen that. So this is the first sampling of that, really. But I expect a bigger blowout, obviously, before November.
It does look good. It does look very good. I still need to complete the first one, though. I do.
Yeah, this is Stubbs' usual.
Luke knows me too well. This guy's got me on WhatsApp, and he's like, "Oh fucking hell, I'll just ignore him for a bit."
he does about an hour, and that's it. It's done. That's the game done. Really. That's it,
Yeah, you got to get ready. Got to get ready for Ragnarok. And you really have to finish the first one as well before you play Ragnarok. I think
need a PS5. Really?
Yeah, that too. But
I don't want to play Ragnarok on. I'm sorry, but
I'm sure it'll look good on PS4. But
they're a little bit more expensive now, though, Stubbs. So you may have to wait a little bit until they come down in price.
Well, I said to my dad about that. It's God of War Ragnarok says it's coming out, but you really want a PS5. And Dad said to me, he says, keep an eye out for one. He says, my dad can afford one, no problem.
They've said there should be
that game.
Sony has said they should have more readily available come the holiday season. So there you go. You better hope there's a good sale.
See, here's the thing with I used to talk to VJ about that. And he often said sometimes companies like PlayStation will stockpile stock and it'll look like there's no stock, and then all of a sudden they'll just supply. And he says he doesn't know, but this was a while ago. I think he probably mentioned it on Midweek Gaming once, and even he said around the release of God of War Ragnarok, they may stockpile the stock, and it would look like that PS5s are sold out everywhere. Then when it's released, you'll see a big wave of consoles come out everywhere. You will.
Well, also for the fact of the holiday season thing, they know they're going to stockpile for that because they,
definitely.
I don't know if you guys get Black Friday and stuff like we do because our Thanksgiving.
Unfortunately, we do here, but it's pretty shit these days.
Yeah.
we get the deal. It's the usual one of like, we got 20% off, but by the way, about a week before that, we raised it by 20%.
That's how sales usually work. That's how sales usually work.
Yeah, but
if you track pricing, that's exactly what they do.
They're like, it lasts about a fucking month now. It's annoying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it'll start up here soon in the States. It'll start up here pretty soon. Yeah. Before the end of October, we'll already be doing Black Friday shit.
Welcome to UK Lobster. I think that's AFC. That's over on Twitch. We are live on Twitch, people, as well. Thanks for popping in. Yes, that was a nice little topic there. I mean, so we're getting to the topic then.
The Luke topic.
CMA. Yes, the one Luke knows very well, his field. So the CMA had some concerns about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard King deal I'll let Luke lead with this because I might get stuff wrong.
What does country music have to do with this deal? The CMA is the Country Music Association, right?
They're almost identical in some cases, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Go on, Luke. Give us the knowledge that you have been imparted upon.
Where to start, really? So, I mean, look, like, you know, I think everybody's read this by now. They've seen like a million different tweets on it. But yeah, the CMA, or the Competition Markets Authority in the UK, as everyone knows, they regulate a number of things, one of which is notifiable mergers, which are mergers where the businesses involved have certain revenue thresholds in the UK. They've been looking at this for a couple of months, I think, and they announced their phase 1 decision, which is the first phase, obviously, of their merger review process. And that's kind of where we are now. I think Activision and Microsoft have until tomorrow, or the end of tomorrow, to give an undertaking because, or to offer undertaking because the CMA essentially said that they have competition concerns. If they don't give undertakings, or they're not willing to, or they give some undertakings to the CMA that the CMA don't particularly like, then it goes to phase 2. Phase 2 is a much more in-depth review of the merger. The threshold for essentially blocking the deal is much higher than in phase 1. And it takes a long time. Typically, it takes about minimum 24 weeks to do, so a good number of months. Can be quicker, but it won't be because it never is. Yeah, I mean, I think I can probably... I'm happy to address any specific questions people have because I think that's an easy way to do this. I think, look, like obviously people have different opinions about what the CMA have said. I think that's absolutely fine because the CMA are not either infallible nor are they experts at this field, right? They're not experts in any field. That's the point of the review process. It's them gathering information from a wide variety of sources. Most of the information comes from the parties to the relevant merger, so in this case Microsoft and Activision. They do get third-party input as well because they'd be I guess failing their duty if they didn't. They take time to analyze this stuff. The phase 1 review is not as intensive as the phase 2 review. The phase 2 review, it lasts 24 weeks because it's a big review and they have very deep powers to essentially compel documentation from the parties in that if they need to find out something in particular. I think what people don't comprehend or seem to refuse to actually accept is that the CMA in phase 1, their threshold for thinking whether something is a substantial lessening of competition, as they call it, is very low generally. So is the merger, or rather, probably a better way of saying it, is it realistic that there is a substantial lessening of competition from the merger? The realistic threshold is low because it's essentially just saying, well, is that possible that you could have a substantial lessening of competition from a merger? And I think if Microsoft tomorrow said all games from Activision Blizzard will be exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem, and we're also going to, license it out at a higher rate if we want to put it on another console and blah, 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 then I think it's fair to argue, you might argue that that's a substantial lessening of competition. The threshold for phase 2 is much higher. So that's, is it likely that the merger will result in that? And typically, it's a much harder threshold to hit. The CMA do hit it sometimes. It depends on what the industry is and what the merger is and, the parties. But they have to kind of really think about, well, is this likely to happen, given all the information we have, given what we know, given any potential undertakings that were offered. So I think people just think that the CMA have, they just don't know anything, or they've just said it is because they're posturing, but they're not. They've done their analysis. The statement they've given is exactly the same type of statement I've seen before. I suppose it's what it is.
I think, and again, I take all Twitter with a little big pinch of salt. I think some may be feeling, and this you may have seen it yourself, is that this is being influenced by Sony, which is clearly something they're not allowed to do. That would be unethical anyway. But also, it's a case of I suppose they're saying, is Sony's claims this will impact them dramatically to the point of where this could, as you said, it could be seen as a benefit to only one party, which is Microsoft. It's one of these things. Do you feel that is valid, or do you feel in some way it's more of a case of from Sony where they're like, we'll say this, hoping it might help them out a little bit, but they're just kind of putting it out there to put it out there as like a feels, effectively.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if you're Sony, then you're not going to say to a regulator, if a regulator asks you or solicits your opinion, that this is great. You're just not going to say that. No. You're going to argue against it, because ultimately, whether you think it's a lessening of competition or not, for down to consumer level, it will impact Sony's business, or it has a potential to, at least. Obviously, we can't predict the future too much. So Sony won't like that. So, I think the Twitter stuff is interesting, because I think a lot of people think that Sony have this like open line of dialogue with regulators. They don't.
Well,
they don't.
It's a red phone, isn't it? Blue phone, really. And it rings, and then the CMA just pricks up and goes, "There, oh yes, hello, Sony."
Well, no, it's the opposite. The CMA, any regulator goes out and solicits the opinion. They go to Sony and they say, like the Brazilian regulator, right? Because we've actually seen the documents there. The Brazilian regulator, when we're investigating this merger for regulatory purposes, for competition purposes, we have 20 questions that I think it was about 20, that we have made up from the analysis, because we want opinions on this from industry players. Biggest competitor, Sony. Here you go, Sony. Answer that for us. The answers they gave in the Brazilian document, they were different to the other competitors or the other publishers, Ubisoft, EA, etc., that gave answers on that basis. But of course they were, because those are just game publishers. They're not, Sony's primary console market competition. So, and it's the same here. The CMA has an open public consultation period, and it will go out and it will seek the opinion of interested parties. Sony will be one of them, and Sony will say whatever they want to say. That's their opinion, right? That's you may disagree with it. I think that's fine too, obviously. But they're not. It's not as if Sony are there whispering in the ear of regulators saying, you know what, you don't want to let this through. Nobody is. That's not how these things work. And I think that's the thing that frustrates me, that for some reason, I've seen stuff like CMA are fanboys. What? They're in Sony's partnership. They're in Sony's pocket.
Sony are in a partnership with the CMA. I've heard that. I tell you.
Yeah. And it's just
reactionary.
Reactionary. Yeah, reactionary. I mean, as someone who does this, it's embarrassing for people if they think that. It really is. How arrogant do you have to be to think that the UK's competition regulator is any more interested in this deal than it is the numerous other mergers of potentially comparable size it looks at on a yearly basis?
That's one thing that in my head, was like, well, say, for instance, Sony's argument is seen as valid, and the CMA takes action to potentially restrict that purchase. Surely, in the end, that's kind of cutting their nose off to spite their face, because then what stops Microsoft doing exactly the same thing from any other potential merger which Sony does?
Well, I mean, the merger would have to be notifiable. It would have to be something caught in the purview of the CMA in the UK. So if Sony, I'll give you let's say your hypothetical happened, right?
Yep.
Merger's blocked. Sony have had some influence in it just by virtue of giving their thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Sony go out tomorrow and buy, I don't know, think of a studio. Give me a studio.
Oh, Christ. Yeah, we've all got, it's like, hang on. Now you've asked, I can't
it's
think
quite
of any.
hard, isn't it? Let's just say they didn't, I'll give you an example. Let's say they didn't own Insomniac.
Yep.
And tomorrow they went out and bought Insomniac. Based on the revenue thresholds, it's not notifiable. You don't have to get regulatory consent in the UK for something like that. If Sony went out and bought EA, yeah, probably it most likely is actually. But Sony buying the type of studios that they're buying, the only one I think they said that they had to get some regulatory approval. It certainly wasn't passed through the CMA because there's no case of it. Is Bungie. So they needed some competition approval somewhere in the world, but that was it. That was the biggest one. If Sony are buying, Blue Points and mobile game studios, and it's just doesn't even flag on the radar of regulators. In the same way that if Microsoft are buying Undead Labs, Ninja Theory doesn't flag on the radar.
There is a comment in the actual chat, and this is from a friendly Pess. He says, I mean, in defense of skeptics, you are arguing a lack of corruption in government, and people are less likely to believe that.
Well,
which is true to some degree, but,
Well, I have a problem with that argument, I think, because I think there is an inherent skepticism of government, particularly in the US, for the reason that many US institutions are politicized to some extent.
Yep.
In the UK, obviously, institutions are politicized. The CMA is an independent regulator. It operates independently, for the most part, of the government. It has a particular role to do, so it carries out that role. It has a board. Now, the board are appointed by, I think there's about 10 members of the board, and they're appointed by the Department for Business in the UK. So in that sense, yes, they are influenced, I guess is a word, by whatever the government of the time is, because they're picked by the Department for Business. But actually, it's not even the Secretary for Business that does that. It's the department as a whole. And they base it on, for the most part, technical ability, expertise in the field, etc. Draw them from across various disciplines, law, finance, economics, etc. But it's not the board that review the mergers, it's a panel. And the panel's made up of 33 people that are picked, again, by the board. It's kind of a pyramid in that sense. And the big problem I have with the corruption element, I guess, is, no offense to Stubbs, by the way, or anyone who supports his party, but the Conservatives are in power in the UK, and the Conservatives are very pro-business and mergers and acquisitions and anything that's of that nature. So if there was ever a government that would prod the CMA to let this through first time, if there was ever any undue influence of that sort, it would be the Tories. They haven't. And that gives you the biggest example of a check and balance that you're going to get at the moment. If Labour were in power, I am sure they would be all over this, saying it's bad and trying to influence the CMA. But
could you imagine it, Luke? Imagine Liz Truss' first speech was different. I'm going to block this deal.
Exactly.
I'm going to block it. She didn't mention it, obviously. I was joking.
Yeah, so it's not like I get it, because I get like there's this inherent skepticism, but I think just remember this is the UK for one, not the US, and that's no offense to the US, but you see all the time that most institutions in the US have some political influence, or I mean, hell, the Supreme Court in the US is one of the most politically charged institutions, which is baffling from anybody who's in any other jurisdiction in the world.
Just to cut for a second, Friendly Pest, we do know it was a joke, but it was such a good comment because it's one of those things that I'm sure people actually believe. So that's why I had to highlight it, because it's
the thing is, I've seen that before where people ardently believe that. So it's not just like a joke, as you say, because you understand that, but where people are kind of adamant and that's what's happening.
Okay,
so
I have a question for you. So
Sure.
today it came out that Ryan said that the deal that Microsoft offered to have Call of Duty, go 3 years over the existing contract. And Ryan said, well, that's unacceptable. And no, will the CMA take that into account that Microsoft made a good faith offer and then Sony turns out and publicly says, nope?
No, because it's irrelevant for the CMA what Microsoft and Sony say to each other. The CMA want an undertaking.
Well, but if they're playing into this could make things, unfair for Sony, and then Sony says, well, it's unfair that we're not going to get COD. Well, they're not going to get COD because of a decision they are making. So I would think that, on some level, we've got to take that. You can't say it's unfair. We're not going to do it, and so it's unfair. It's...
Yeah, I see what you mean, but the CMA aren't bothered. The CMA don't care about Sony as they exist as a business entity. And I think that's where some of the confusion about how they've worded their statement comes from. Because what the CMA are concerned about is something called the theory of harm. It's the method by which they analyse the impact of a merger. And a theory of harm is a hypothesis about what will happen to a rivalry in a given sector, which is obviously really important for consumers, if X or Y happens, if a merger happens in this case, right? And the CMA are looking at a hypothetical down the line. If the merger happens, what happens to the rivalry, and ultimately what happens to consumers? Now, the CMA don't care what happens to the rivalry so long as it doesn't impact adversely on consumers. So in terms of what Microsoft and Sony are saying to each other, this kind of back and forth, the CMA don't, first of all, they wouldn't care about that too much because they have their own concerns and they will have an idea of what they think are the things that Microsoft and Activision can do to remedy it. And if they think that one of those things is to give an undertaking about bringing Call of Duty to, rival platforms or whatever for X amount of years, then that's what they'll expect. Even if Sony said, say the CMA, for example, they want an undertaking for the next 4 years, or not the next 4 years, 4 games after Sony's deal, right? They wouldn't make it that specific, but let's just say that they said 4 instead of 3. It wouldn't obviously, or even if they said 2, right? It wouldn't matter that Sony's rejected 3 just in the public domain. The CMA still wants it. It's not as though they turn around and go, well, Sony rejected it, so it's fine, Microsoft, because they don't care what Sony say, because they're evaluating impact on consumers in a hypothetical down the line. So the deal they're trying to get is for
I get that. What I'm saying is, by doing what they've done, and I wouldn't be surprised if this came up in Sony's statement to them, is Sony is saying that this is going to adversely affect us down the line. So you're saying that that's what they look at, and Sony's saying that as a company, this will adversely affect. They're saying their player base, but what they really mean is them. It's going to pull players from them.
I think in what it's saying is, regardless of what Sony says, they'll take that on board in maybe as just as a statement, but it's the process. The process is going to override. They could use that same process for different companies, and they're going to stick to that process because that gives them the best indicator of it, whether it is actually going.
I guess what I'm asking. So you're saying that's not going to carry any weight per se?
Not
Sony
really.
No. Go, 5, 10 years, 10 years down the road, this is going to hurt us, and they're going to go, yeah.
No, because the process. Sorry, you
go on, removable. No, that's fine.
I'm assuming, and again, this is how I'm understanding Luke's concept, is that the process, effectively the process itself will automatically give them an indicator of where this will be in, say, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, based on their own on that process. So even if Sony says, this will bankrupt us, it does, and they look at their process, and the process says something completely different, they'll stick with that process. I think that's how I'm understanding it. Is that right? Correct, Luke?
Yeah, essentially, the important distinction is that if Sony do some, if Sony say this will impact us, right, in our fan base, as you said, Paul, what they really mean is it's going to impact our business, right?
Yeah.
The CMA don't care about that. They only care about it to the extent that the business is impacted adversely such that it substantially lessens competition. Because obviously in an open marketplace, when companies are going at it, competing, businesses are impacted adversely all the time, right? That's not an issue for a regulator. Regulator doesn't. That's great. That's good if businesses are impacted. Start of the Xbox One generation, right? Business was impacted massively on Microsoft's side through various faults of their own and also the competition. It ended up being great for consumers because look at where Microsoft are now, their response to it, right? So if Sony say they've got an issue and, the CMA don't care about that unless when they analyze it, they say, actually, this issue is so significant that not only does it heavily impact a rival, which is what we're looking at, but really what we're looking at is that impact on the rivalry, on the competition, is really going to impact consumers at a bottom level. And you can disagree with that. I think that's fine. It's just what the CMA are analysing. But
no, I don't. I personally, I think that issue alone isn't going to be enough to impact Sony to the extent that they unless they sit on their hands for the next.
Oh, you mean if they didn't get Call of Duty, like that would. Right. And yeah, I guess that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Right. And that's one of the things that the CMA think will really impact competition. They explicitly say one of the main things is if Microsoft either exclude Activision Blizzard games, and they distinctly name Call of Duty because it's their biggest game, from other platforms, or if they essentially create adverse market conditions for other people to access that game in terms of the likes of Sony and whoever else, Steam, etc. So we don't know, I think, how badly something like that would impact Sony after, if Microsoft commit to 6 more games, then after the 6th game they pull it, how much will that actually impact? Well, we don't really know because we don't know what Call of Duty will be like then, what other franchises will have come along, what Sony will build. But the CMA can only hypothetically analyse so far, right? They can't say, well, what if tomorrow Sony creates the new Fortnite? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because as Sony, I think, have genuinely and agreeably to me argued, it's very difficult for anyone to create a franchise like Call of Duty, even them, right? When Call of Duty has thousands of developers working at a perilously high budget on a pretty fast turnover and has, 20 years worth of goodwill behind its name. It's really difficult to build a game.
It'd be hard for them to break into that, yeah.
So, and also a game like Call of Duty, and again, this is where I do agree with Sony, I think it is influential to where people buy their consoles. Just because it's such a big game. That's not me defending Sony. I just genuinely think that. I thought that.
But like I said, I don't know if I said before we were actually live, but if they go to it, because they said the current contracts are for the next 3 releases, which could be anywhere from, because it's supposed to be every other year now, so you're looking at 6 years or so, give or take. And then 3 years beyond that would push it to 9 or 10. And if it's hard for Sony to say, well, there's nothing we can do about that loss. We can't plan for 6 years from now. By then, we should have something on, that we can offer our player base to bring, to keep them there. I don't know how to put it. But it doesn't seem like,
I know what you're saying. I get that. But I think if you think about what would Sony have to do to try and even replicate a game as successful as Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Sony, you would have to pull resource from most of their studios, or at least a great deal of them, get them to try and build a game that's similar. Get it to try and be as successful first go as Call of Duty. Like I don't want to say impossible, but I think it's
it'd be hard
close to it.
Well, but also the game that always comes up is SOCOM. And
Right,
they've
but-
also known about this for 2 years. They could already be working on something.
Yeah, but
Well, I
does
was gonna say-
SOCOM doesn't have even a fraction of the brand recognition that
I
Call
was
of
gonna
Duty
say
does in the
Last of Us.
wild world.
No,
was
but if
gonna
Last
they,
of Us.
but
because-
that's marketing and stuff. That's stuff that they could work on. Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
can't. Yeah, but how do you compete with Call of Duty's marketing? How do you
Yeah.
compete with that amount of money? I would genuinely think Call of Duty's marketing costs more for a game release than several Sony first-party IPs put together. So how do you compete? Are you saying that Sony should essentially say, you know what, all these single-player games that you like, all of these games, we're working on a Call of Duty rival for 2 years. All of our budget's going into that. So that's bad for consumers,
Well,
isn't it?
no,
That just makes them
but-
weaker.
But I guess I don't think it's, well, we can't compete on that level. It's I don't consider that a fair reason to stop this merger. Yeah, Sony's had every chance to grow as much as Microsoft has.
Yeah, well, yeah, but and I agree. I agree with that. I don't think it's a reason to stop the merger, me
Right.
personally. But I can appreciate the argument of the CMA if they go, a game like Call of Duty is so important to the gaming industry, is so fundamental in getting players to pick a console or an ecosystem that it will harm competition if it's made exclusive somewhere else. And obviously, we know that Microsoft aren't planning to do that, so it's all a
Right.
bit of a washy thing, right?
That's the other thing is, all this stuff like what Jim Ryan said. That's the old put fear into them. That way the people who aren't paying attention think, oh my God, we're going to lose Call of Duty day after tomorrow. No, you're not. It's gonna,
Yeah, but if you're Jim Ryan, and again, he's coming out and going, well, 3 years is inadequate. Again, what are you going to say? You're not going to go. If Microsoft put an offer in front of you, go, well, you've got your contract till X date. We'll give you another 3 years after that, and then it's fair game. What's the number one rule of negotiating a contract? Isn't to go, yeah, deal, sign that. It's to
that's what I'm saying is,
it's to go. We want something more.
I think Jim Ryan is looking for Call of Duty in perpetuity, basically forever.
Yeah, well, I don't think he is, because he's a smart businessman, and it's impossible to give Call of Duty for in perpetuity. I mean, Microsoft could effectively bankrupt themselves trying to do that, but
No.
So it would never happen. But he will want more than 3 years. He'll want. I don't know what the number will be. He might want assurances about other things to do with Call of Duty as well, not just a commitment to X number of games. But yeah, I mean, obviously he was going to say it's inadequate. I don't think it. I mean, as Microsoft said, it seems like a pretty good offer within the context of of what they would usually offer. And I think what Jim Ryan wants is something like the Minecraft treatment, right? Where he wants maybe some written agreement that it will definitely be released on PlayStation for X number of time. And thereafter, some kind of informal commitment from Phil Spencer to keep it multi-platform while they still make Call of Duty games. Obviously, not one that he can enforce, but I think he wants a bit more. But he's not going to settle for 3 years if he can get 5 or whatever.
And he probably wants a cut of the microtransactions or the battle passes that go to the PlayStation side. Which makes sense.
To be fair to Microsoft, they've said it's not profitable to pull it from PlayStation, right? I mean, Call of Duty.
And I've been preaching that for a year, that it doesn't make sense for Microsoft to go, okay, we're going to cut it off all these other resources.
Because stream, isn't it? As cash on the table, you're not going to leave it.
Yeah. And look, I mean, Call of Duty, where's it most successful? It's most successful on PlayStation.
Yep,
by far. It makes the most money there. So, for Microsoft, they'll have done the analysis of, okay, if we did pull it, where would, what's the kind of difference it would make to Game Pass and the revenue there, or our just ecosystem generally, compared to if we just left it on PlayStation. And clearly they've said it's an absolute no-goer at the moment because it's just not worth it.
That does bring up an interesting question in terms of, is it the smart move then? And I suppose we're going a little bit beyond the actual CMA at the moment, is that Xbox would if they say, right, we're going to release it exactly the same time on Xbox, exactly the same time on PlayStation, would it make sense for them then to say, right, it's Game Pass day one on Xbox, PlayStation, you have to pay 70 quid? Because technically speaking, they're still manipulating the absolute. Well, they're manipulating.
Just want to pop.
What was that, Stubbs?
I just wanted to jump in and shout people out in the chat. It's the first Midweek Gaming back since summer. Thanks for everyone for popping in. She's now late. Welcome. We've also got Mama Rocks, if she's still in. She was in. We've also got Scott was also in chat, and BMG are both giving Luke, probably seen it, both giving Luke stick and making out he's not really an M&A lawyer at all, and he's just an actor. Luke knows his stuff. They won't him up with spice, but yeah, thanks for popping in, everyone. It's a good conversation on. It's been quite a fun topic so far, and fun show. And on that point, removeable sanity. This may be connected as well. UK Lobster on Twitch did say earlier, I've saved them because you can save them in this StreamYard. Do you think PlayStation are pushing for Call of Duty to not appear on Game Pass? So that probably links in with what Removeable Sanity is saying as well.
Do I think then pushing for it not to be on Game Pass? I don't know, because I don't know how realistic they think that is. I think
isn't
people
Game Pass influencing the market, which is what I'm saying. Isn't that part of that market? You know, as you said earlier, that is part and parcel of that kind of meddling with the market. So if you've got one platform that's okay, it's not free, but visually free to the consumer, versus $70 from another aspect, it is messing with the market in some way.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, it is. I think the CMA, for example, did highlight that. They said, you know, if Activision Blizzard content was withheld from consoles or multi-game subscription services, so clearly they had in mind, you know, keeping it off something like PlayStation Plus and putting it on Game Pass. So it's clearly something the CMA think about as well. Clearly, I think it was one of the primary reasons Microsoft did the merger, was to get that kind of game on Game Pass, because it is a big draw.
Yeah.
I don't know how overtly influential it would be personally on getting masses of people to migrate their entire platform over to Xbox, because I think most people are willing to pay for Call of Duty. And if you look at the gamut of casual gamers, the type of people that just buy consoles for Call of Duty and FIFA, etc., they probably wouldn't be that bothered about moving for, you know, getting Call of Duty for free. But it's an argument you could make, and whether Sony want to try and block that is, I don't know, it's questionable. I think, well, in an ideal world, would they? Yeah, of course they would. You know, of course they don't want anyone to leave, right? If they can help it. So if there's some factor like it being on Game Pass that could potentially persuade someone to move, they'd want to stop that. But I don't think that, you know, if all being equal, if Microsoft said, yeah, for the next 15 years, let's just give an example, we're going to give you all the Call of Duty games, but we will put it on Game Pass, I think Sony would be pretty happy with that, to be honest. I don't think, you know, that. I think they're realistic about what they can get out of this, or rather what they think regulators will be happy to go with and not. But
so here's one for you. With removable, I mean, you could say $70, but Microsoft own them. They could drop COD back down to $60. Does it mean they keep it at 70? They probably will keep it at 70 because Call of Duty is a highly profitable game. It is. Apparently, it is. They spend a lot on marketing. It's incredible, the marketing on Call of Duty. It is.
It's just one of the things. I'm trying to look at it from the CMA's point of view in terms of, is that is the Game Pass in a way? I'm trying to think of the ideal compromise for Microsoft, Sony, and the CMA would be to say, right, COD can come onto the other platform, and the merger can go through. But by the way, it can't go on Game Pass. It has to go as a standalone title.
No, would it be better? It can't go. It can't go on.
I didn't
Game
say
Pass
it was ideal for Microsoft. But I'm just thinking,
no. But it can't go on Game Pass for a certain amount of time, like a year or whatever, which is what.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, sorry, that's probably more what I was gauging you with. It'll be after a year. It can't release on Game Pass. That's probably the better wording I would say for it. And it can't release. And that way it gives an equal footing in the marketplace for a certain period of times. But because then, obviously Microsoft is the owner to a degree, they do get a bonus of it.
I was going to say, I was going to say, even if that happens, I mean, Microsoft's not going to turn down the money of people paying $70 on both sides, Yeah.
Also, like, even if, let's just say, apart from blockage, which I guess is worst case scenario for Microsoft, worst case scenario, the CMA say for 15 years, you need to give us an undertaking that for 15 years, any Call of Duty you're planning to release in that period has to be, one, made multi-platform, at least on PlayStation, with content feature parity so far as the hardware will allow it, and two, you're not allowed to bring it onto any of your subscription services. Microsoft would probably take that because what thing they will be able to do? They'll be able to market it with their platform, and that will bring them more money, and people than probably even Game Pass would. Because if you, over the 15 years, change the perception of where you should play that game, advertising is very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Also, you could slap it on the box too. At that point, couldn't you? The Xbox console. You could slap it on there. You could.
Exactly. Yeah, you could do all sorts of stuff. So, and I don't think the CMA are going to say that. I think they will probably, think about. I mean, if they did want some concessions around that, obviously, I don't think it'd be 15 years, but they might say, you need to bring it to rival platforms for at least X number of years. Oh, and also you can't put it on your subscription service for Y number of years. Y being, a lot less an amount of time than the actual multi-platform commitment. But it's hard to judge. I mean, it's really hard to judge this stuff because it's a regulator, and they have an idea in their head, then they'll pretty much stick to it. So, I mean, we'll be interested by the end of tomorrow if we hear anything about what Microsoft are offering, or if they want to offer something, they might not.
Yeah. Do you think
a friendly? Sorry, friendly Pest had a question. I didn't want to ignore his question. This isn't actually relating to the deal. We just wanted to know something. Why is it sometimes you see an announcement of intent to acquire, like a developer or a publisher, and then sometimes you see has joined the family, while I think what he means is while they also say they intend to acquire, but then announce they've joined the family. I think because PlayStation done that sometimes, haven't they? I think they've done that with Bungie.
Yeah, there's a law reason for that, or a contractual reason, which is that when you're buying something like a company and you're entering into an SPA, which is a sale and purchase agreement, typically you have something called split exchange and completion. And what that means is, and I won't get too technical here, but you do a load of stuff at the beginning, right? You do your due diligence, you review financials, all of that sort of stuff, right? You draft a contract that says that. But you'll typically have lots of things you need to do before you can officially welcome someone, before it completes, right? So you you do your contract, and what you do is you exchange the contract. And basically what that means is you sign it and date it, and it will say in it that from exchange to completion, you have to do X, Y, and Z until the deal is complete, until it's fully done. You've got nothing else to do. So when they go out and they say, we've entered into agreement, intent to acquire, Bungie, let's say, they've got to the exchange function, right? They've signed all their deals, they've signed all their contracts. However, the contract is the completion of it is conditional upon X, Y, and Z. One of those is, stuff like this is always regulatory approval. So until you satisfy, or you can.
Is that more like a transparency clause that they have to, do you think?
How do you mean?
Well, obviously, if they're acquiring someone, you maybe it is written in, as you said, it's one of those aspects they have to kind of go through, those hoops they have to go through before they can fully complete. Is it that you have to be transparent about what you're purchasing to the wider audience? It can't be seen as a a bag coming across under a table sort of situation.
Oh, do you mean when the companies announce it?
Yeah, is it more of
the intent to acquire?
Yeah.
No, it's usually just because they want to announce it because it's good to announce it, right? It's good for PlayStation's, for their market cap, their share price. If they can say in the future we're going to acquire Bungie, right? That's good for them. So it's a good announcement to me. I've been on deals where they, I did one a month ago where the client was buying someone, another company, and they pushed and pushed and pushed for it to be specifically done, exchanged before a Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. And it's like doing these deals, you're like, why are you pushing for this so badly? What a weird place. And it was purely because at 9:30 a.m. they had a shareholder meeting and they wanted to announce it to all their shareholders. So, and they were really adamant that it had to be done by then. So, of course, that meant late nights and all that bollocks that comes with it. But, that's what they wanted to do. So, and you have it here as well. They're eager to announce it as soon as possible. They can only announce it once they've exchanged contracts. After that, they can say, well, it's, we've entered into agreement to acquire Bungie or Activision Blizzard, and they always say, pending regulatory approval, all that stuff. That's all your conditions precedent, they're called. So you have to satisfy those before it all completes and is wrapped up. So that's why there's a split. When they say welcome to the family, deal's complete, all the conditions precedent have been satisfied. That's it.
Okay, thanks for answering that question for a friendly press. Welcome to Safu. And Shizno Elite, I can't think if I've shouted you out. Maybe I have already. I'll just make sure I'm shouting people out. But yes, it's a very interesting topic. It is. Paul, did you want to mention something to Luke about? You said that the CMA have got a Twitter account. Something you seen?
Yeah, their tweet, which is what everybody was responding to, and I read their tweet and I thought it looked a little immature in a sense. I'm sure you said the statements they made were normal, but the way I read it, it almost looks to me like one of those groups like Greenpeace or whoever. We stop this, we let this happen. It doesn't look very professional to me. It almost, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. Look, I mean, the CMA are a regulatory body that have a Twitter account. They're not going to be, super incredible at social media. They're a bunch of really, really smart people who work really hard and have to analyze very complex mergers. So, whoever has that.
I think what a lot of people were responding to with the off the cuff stuff was the fact that it said, we're not sure that this is going to be fair for Sony, so we're going to ask them this stuff, and if they don't enter, we're going to look deeper into it. That kind of came across as, that probably should have been kept. That's probably something they should have kept in their head, not put on.
I think it was more of a factual statement rather than,
but
the
way it came across. But the way it came across, though,
it's like an email, isn't it? They were just basically making a factual statement, and everyone else is going, "Oh, that's more of like a threat, isn't it?" Hint.
Well,
wink.
I think they should have stayed away from using terms like "we're concerned with." They if they're supposed to be a neutral body, they shouldn't go in telling everybody they're concerned about the deal. You know,
Well, but that's their job to be
but-
concerned about mergers.
but to publicly make that statement that we're going to look into this because we're concerned about it says in some way it almost reads like they've already kind of put their mind in a certain place. You know.
Well, they
I
have.
think-
That's why they did the phase 1 analysis.
Well, okay. Yeah, I guess you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I think they could have phrased it better where it came across more. We're going to be looking into this deal to see how it affects the two companies. They could have kept it more neutral.
But they have to say they can't. They do a phase 1 review, right? They can't refer it to phase 2 unless they're concerned that there's a realistic.
Right, but they haven't even said they're going to
substantial-
refer to phase 2. They're waiting for the responses that are due tomorrow.
Well, no, but here's the thing. I don't know how many people only read the tweets. Right, the tweets are a very tiny, tiny summary of their findings.
All right, no, I understand. No,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is they could have worded the tweet better and not had such a blow up.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I mean, genuinely, when I read the tweet, I didn't think anything adverse either way. You know, it was just an extremely truncated summary of their phase 1 decision, which you can find on their website. That's, you know, I've got it here in front of me. That's 8 pages long.
I get that. I'm just saying
So,
that our uses of the English language, I'm big on words and big on how things come across when you say them. And
I
when
think-
you
well,
type them, especially.
believe me, as a lawyer, I'm very big on words that kind of define
I know.
what I actually do.
I think
I
think what there is there's a slight difference in understanding. In that, again, I think it's the email thing, almost as a statement of fact, is what they've tweeted out. This is our findings. This is our concerns. And then people from the other side are looking at this going, wait, they're kind of putting in a intention when really there is no intention. It's just almost like a statement of fact from them. That's it. Where other people are probably looking at their tweets as, well, there's an intention behind that maybe is a little bit more onerous than a statement of fact. Does that make sense to you, Paul, a little bit? And I think I know what you're coming from. I know you're like, well, they could have worded different. I think their duty is almost to word it differently. Their duty is literally almost technical statement. That's it. Whether or not it comes across right or wrong, it is literally a technical statement of a summary, bullet point summary, effectively, of what their thoughts are. Take it or leave it, whether or not you know, in that regards. And then from other people looking at that, how they receive that is more on the onus of them, isn't it?
You know, and the other thing that might have helped too is also if they would have, with that tweet, if they're going to use Twitter, if they would have included a link to the actual agreement or to the actual paperwork, so that I don't have to go hunting it down on the.
I think they did. I think
on the
they
tweet
linked,
I don't think I saw one, but maybe they did.
They linked to their government page summary, and then you can find the
well,
statement
but then you have to find. Yeah, they link to the page that is scrolling with all kinds of stuff. You know, so
yeah.
Yeah, that's just more of a technical person just going. In English, that's more. I suppose it's more a technical person just doing the bare minimum. They're not going to. That's it. That's my page. I'm not here to kind of mess around. That's. I've got more other stuff to do, sort of thing. You know.
You're a lawyer, so you'll understand when. And Stubbs will tell you this. I'm real big on cite and source. If you're going to tell me something, show me a site, show me a source.
Yeah,
you are.
The CMA don't have to cite and source it.
No, you don't. Okay, but it should be easier to find than dumping.
Sure, I mean, if they
you gotta,
if they did a tweet that said, "Click here to find our summary of our phase 1 investigation." I think that would have been helpful. Yeah, and I think that actually would have been really helpful because unfortunately, you got a lot of people that all they did was read the tweet.
Right.
And you miss tons of analysis and context if you just read the tweet.
Because that link I provided is also in the description, people. The UK government one. And all you had to do was scroll down under it, and you clicked on 2 of them, and it would download both. It would download documents for you, and it was 8 pages. It was all in there. It's quite.
It's simple. 8 pages of "We are owned by Sony."
Yeah, we have been paid $25 million to refer to Phase 2 by Sony.
Don't type this out. Don't type this out. We've just got paid. Whee!
Whee! Off we go. So yeah,
it's all interesting though. It is. It's one that I just wish obviously people on podcasts and YouTubers would have handled it better, as people were talking about earlier on. I mean, some people put. Well, I even seen titles say the CMA is blocking the deal.
I think. Well, you've got two things, right? You've got the podcast scene and obviously the YouTube and creator scene, which needs clickbait. It needs a clickbait element. So that's going to influence a title or something like that. Secondly, also, I was just going to say, a lot of people don't understand it because it's a very technical, complex issue. Hence the reason why we've got Luke on here to kind of, he's probably watered it down. In fact, it's probably a hell of a lot more complex nature to it. He's kind of been very good enough to kind of reduce it down to a much more manageable understanding of it. And, it's like anything in these things. If it's discussing a very complex situation can easily be misconstrued, misunderstood, and misinformed. And unless you have a good knowledge of the topic you're talking about, you are going to, you're kind of going to go in and go, well, this is what I think rather than this is fact. And it's those things, isn't it? It's one of those things. I wouldn't be able to look at that deal and go, I know what the hell's going on. I'd be like most people going, it's, maybe it's a bit biased, maybe it's something else, or maybe it is. But, it's one of those things. Once you are like Luke, you can see the complex nature of it, the context behind it, and read exactly what there is, and then you get a bigger understanding. So this is where we're lucky to have Luke on, where we can find someone who has that understanding and pass that knowledge on to our listeners and on to other people. Not many podcasts have lawyers like Luke just sitting there waiting for them to, to come on board and explain every single thing for them. We're quite lucky in that regard,
We are. Thank you for Luke for coming on. Yeah, it's been fun, but it's like see, that word you mentioned, clickbait, I think YouTube's going to be heavily affected soon because I don't know if you know, but actual Google search results, people that are clickbaiting, YouTube's done a crackdown. And people that do proper clickbait where, where you get them articles where it is pure clickbait and when you read the article, it's nothing to do with it. Well,
Jim Ryan blows up Microsoft headquarters.
Well, Google is now, Google is now not showing people the clickbait articles. It's got an algorithm now. If they transfer that into YouTube, as a lot of people are going to be screwed. If they take that algorithm to YouTube with a clickbait.
I don't think that's going to happen because of the advertisement. I don't think that's going to be. I think a bit like advertisement, they kind of needs it in a way to get it moving. I don't know about you, Luke. Do you think these kind of clickbait elements is going to kind of go away in terms of that aspect? I don't think so, is it? It's just kind of part and parcel.
There'll be a way around it.
Yeah, I think even if they wanted to do that, there'd be a way around it. But as you say, I think clickbait is what drives viewership, isn't it? It's like what drives YouTube getting money, I guess. So
I mean, clickbait is fine as long as you mention. Because as long as you mention what's in your title or podcast, as long as you mention it, yeah. But obviously, some people, proper clickbait say stuff that ain't true. You know what I mean? But it's up to them.
We know many examples in the podcasting scene.
I'm not naming names.
I'm not naming any names, but we know they do exist. Yeah, mostly stubs, to be honest.
I remember when I started covering PlayStation a bit on Midweek Gaming, and there was a bit of a few people moaned. I just went, well, if you don't want to listen, don't listen. I wasn't being arsed. They just said we want to cover a little bit of PlayStation because we used to be predominantly just Xbox. And I was like, there's other shows if you're not happy, but they kept listening anyway. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the problem becomes, especially with gaming, it's not inherently bad having clickbait like if it's biased towards, platform or whatever. I don't think that's particularly egregious. What is really egregious is then if you have clickbait on a podcast or something, and then you have 4, 5, 6 people who are all just themselves inherently biased towards a particular side, because that's just like, it's just shit reinforcing shit. It's just pointless
It's
at
a
that
bubble
point,
effect, isn't it?
yeah, it's just a bubble. It's it's a kind of unconscious bias thing just in perpetuity happening all around you. So like it's good like these ones where like we don't all agree on any of this stuff, but that's absolutely fine, because at least
when I joined the panel, that's what I told Stubbs. I will not be on this podcast where it's a bunch of
exactly, yeah, because
any panel I join, I say that
there's plenty of shows that are yes guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, there is, yeah, which is why these are good, because it as long as people can debate and rationalize why they think X or Y, if they hold a different view, I think it's entirely irrelevant, so, and it's a good thing, and I would never go on something like you, Paul, and be like, well, no, I'm just going to go with the crowd on this, because if I actually think differently, why would I?
Yeah, I've told Stubbs he's off his meds sometimes with his views. I'm like, yeah.
Yes. It's good. Yeah. He's told me many times I'm wrong. And a lot of the time, to be fair, he's right.
Yeah.
I was fucking talking shit, but
But the difference is you're willing to listen to and understand the other side, because I usually explain why you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's being open to ideas, open to different ideas, open to different conversations. If you've got that bubble, you'll never get out of that bubble. You have to. Yep. It has to be a willingness from yourself to do so. And if you're not willing to engage openly with debate, discussion, and a potential of I'm always willing. I'm kind of looking for someone to change my mind. That's the kind of thing. I'm looking to be changed my mind. I'm not looking to reinforce it. I'm looking to go, no, they've got information that's going to make me go, oh, didn't know that. Let me look into that. I want to. I'd rather go in. No, I always think I'm wrong, regardless of it. I always think I'm wrong, And if I'm right, well, that's a bonus sometimes, But at the same time, I'm always wrong. I feel I'm wrong, and I'm just hoping that the conversations will give me more information so I can make a better decision upon things. If you're always going in with the mindset, I'm right, you're never going to actually move or progress forward in your thinking.
Yeah. And I think that's a problem with some podcasts these days, particularly gaming ones, which is it's a first person, second person reinforcing what the first person said, and that's all you get. And then that invariably it just attracts people to the chat who think exactly the same. And so if you think different, you're kind of like ostracized from it all,
Exactly. I mean, I won't mention any names, but there was a certain bloody clickbaiter on Twitter. I won't mention his name, but you tried to use Energy Crisis to get people in. Apparently, the Series X costs £59 a year in energy, and the PS5 costs £4 a year. Fuck off.
Oh,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah. No.
What a load of crap, eh? Do you know what I mean? But that's the way it is.
Yeah,
some people just anything to try and get you in.
It's just nonsense. And as Removable said, I think the worst people who do this are people that will sit there, they will think they're right, then they will listen to someone who has a different opinion and sometimes a better factual basis for what they think. And that person will make really good points and, have expertise in the field, like me or something. And then they'll go away from that and go, didn't take any of that in. Yeah, I'm still right. Yeah, like as if it was just a pointless. Yeah. It's just a pointless exercise because you're never going to convince anyone like that of anything in life, and that's usually why they're just pardon my French, fucking losers. So there you go. But yeah, it's good. It's good to be on shows like this one where, you know, even if everyone comes out of this and disagrees with the CMA, that's entirely fine, because it's not as if they're an infallible entity and they're exactly right about everything. They're not. They're just making an analysis on the stuff they have. So if you come away and you go, oh, still don't agree with them, that's fine. But at least you've had some information as to the background, you know, why they've done this thing, what it means. You know, I think that's as important sometimes as anything, the process of it all. So, yeah.
Indeed. Wake up, Stubbs.
Very true. I'm not asleep. But yeah, no, Luke's right about the CMA. But yeah, thanks for coming on and offering your expertise. I mean, I have watched a podcast recently where someone in the field went on a podcast and the chat still disagreed with him, even though they was pointing out facts, etc. But
yeah,
Luke,
I don't know who that was, Stubbs. Yeah, I don't know who that was. Yeah.
You know,
there we go.
But yes, welcome Ori. Thanks for popping in, dude. And Warwick Gaming. But yes, I think that's about it for tonight's topics. I'd like to thank you for coming on, Luke, and offering your knowledge in the area, because you have been on for quite a few times on Midweek Gaming in the past. Nearly might as well call you on an honorary Midweek Gaming member, because you're on that often. But it's actually a topic that usually it's not a topic like this, and this is the kind of topic you like to get your teeth into. Something you actually know facts on it.
Or does he? Is it just like, oh god, here we go again? I do this for work, and now I've got to come on the bloody podcast and talk about it.
It's actually, you know what? It's quite fun. It's quite fun to do it. It's nice to be able to bring in, I guess, your work with a hobby. You know, it's quite rare that you get to do that, right? So, you know, that would be the ideal job, wouldn't it? Where you're doing a hobby, but you're getting paid for it. So, well, Stubbs hasn't paid me for any of the shows yet, but he's going to have a bloody hefty bill.
Does that mean that you're gonna change your name to something like the gaming lawyer? You know,
definitely.
Lawyer, you know?
No. I wouldn't do that. No,
no, God.
Because you know what would happen then, don't you?
Just got one last question. There's Safu wants to know, because I think she may have missed a lot of the show. Does the CMA actually take the time to educate itself to see all the sides of the agreements in the current phase, I presume?
Yeah, I mean they do it in every phase, but in phase one, they have a much more constrained time frame to review stuff. But even still, they mentioned that they'd read about 1,000 documents for this, which were submitted by Microsoft, Activision, third parties. You know, other documents they would have found about the industry, etc. So they do really educate themselves. Obviously, you can only go so far with that in phase one because they are under time constraints. Phase two, then, because it lasts, you know, a minimum of 24 weeks, basically, it's really, really intensive research that they do around the industry, around potential effects of the industry, financials of the companies involved, impact on financials, all of that kind of stuff. So they are, you know, and these people, you know, doing this aren't dummies, right? They're highly educated, you know, usually from different industries. So they know what they're doing in terms of analysis. But of course, it's not as if they bring in 5, you know, 20-year vets from the gaming industry to do this. They look at a lot of things, right? They look at, you know, anything from the gaming market to postal services, energy, you know, everything. Pharmaceuticals, that's a nice, fluffy, common one. And they become kind of jack of all trades, master of none, really. Like they know enough to evaluate this stuff.
Back bottled water suppliers and one's purchase of another antivirus of Avast recently. Yeah, because I was just on their Twitter page where they posted.
All that. Yeah. Microsoft LinkedIn they would have done. So they look into all that sort of stuff. I've seen them do big global recruitment companies before, mergers between those. So they have to, but I mean, they're heavily reliant on I think what's important to understand is that they're often as educated as the documents that they're supplied with, right? So, and the point being that they will ask for many, many, many documents from Microsoft and Activision, and they'll give them to them because you have to. But also, it's obviously going to be better for Microsoft to give them as much information as possible, so they can, hopefully for Microsoft, and to be honest, hopefully for me, because I really want the deal to go through, because I fucking love Game Pass and I want more games on it, right? So like, I'm not coming at this with an agenda, right? I'd really like this to happen, because it does ultimately benefit me. But they'll do a lot of research. They've already done a lot of research. They will now, provided Microsoft don't offer them an undertaking by the end of tomorrow that they accept, in which case they'll give a conditional approval, they'll go to phase 2. The only thing I will say, sorry to just give you one last thing, is that I looked at some stats a few months ago, actually, just because I was interested, because that's how sad my life is. Completely unrelated to this, but apparently since 2019, 48 deals that have passed through the CMA have gone to phase 2. So a relatively small proportion, I'd say, given that it's usually hundreds in a year. But of those, about 36 had global deal mortality, which is they failed or were abandoned or were blocked. Now, the CMA themselves only actually blocked one of those 48, but typically stuff that goes to phase 2 does suffer. They do suffer a lot more problems in terms of actually being passed through. And I think over 20 of those were allowed to go through by the CMA, but only subject to some undertaking or conditionality. So it's not a good place to be if you're going to phase 2. It's typically where deals go to die globally. Because if the CMA are doing phase 2, it's more likely that other regulators will also push it to that. Certainly the EU, very likely. America, who knows? Depends on which way the political wind's blowing for that month or that year. But it's just something to bear in mind. I'm quite optimistic about this one. I think it'll be one of those that does go through, I suspect with conditions, but what those will be, who knows? So just a nice, happy note to end on.
Thanks for that, Luke. I hope that answers your question, Safu. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Luke. It's been an interesting episode, and I hope a lot of people have learned a lot from it. It looks like the chat's enjoyed it. BMG's offered plenty of spice in there, and Scott, they have. But yeah, thanks, Luke, for coming on. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Sure, I'll just keep it simple because you'll find me in many places if I've got the time. But just go and follow me at LukeSteele90 on Twitter.
Thanks for coming on, Luke. And a
Very
removable
welcome.
sanity.
Uh-oh.
Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on Xbox, YouTube, Minds, and Twitter, all under the name Removeable Sanity.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank
It's
you.
been fun tonight. It has.
Ooh.
And Cerebral Paul, thanks for coming on.
Oh, no, glad to be here. Glad to be back. So you can find me on Twitter, CerebralPaul1, Twitch and YouTube is Cerebral Paul. On the Xbox Ambassador channel on Monday evenings for you guys. I have a show called Gaming Differently. On Tuesdays, I'm on the Gaming After Dark, and I'm also one of the Retro Renegades, so I'm busy on Tuesday. Wednesday, of course, I'm here. Thursday, I am on 4GQ TV, and then Friday and Saturday and Sunday, I sleep.
You're still a busy man then, Paul. You are.
Yeah.
You're still a busy man. But yeah, thanks for coming on. And myself, you can find me on the plastic platforms with Centurion on Monday. On this channel this time at 9 p.m. UK time. 4 p.m. EST, and the Monday after that, I'm on the podcast. I'm on a new podcast called Status Chat. It's where myself, BMG, Shadowmo, and NMA Raza talk about Destiny and other related gaming news. It's every 2 weeks. So if you want to check out, type in Status Chat on YouTube, and I'll share a lot of the info on my Twitter about Status Chat as well. Our podcast basically every Monday now, I do. And we've got Midweek Gaming back. So I probably might call this episode, I might change it to episode 1, season 2, maybe.
Ooh.
I'll think about that. Maybe. I don't know. I might keep numbering it up to keep going. But yeah, thanks for coming on, everyone. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for turning up in chat. It's been a pleasure to see you all there. Shizno Elite, it's always great to see you. Safu, it's always good to see you. And Pixel Slapper, thanks for appearing on YouTube. And then you also popped over to the Twitch channel and back and forth as well. There was Paul AFC, who was over on Twitch. Thanks for popping in. BMG in chat for the whole show. Thanks for popping in, mate. There was also Scott popped in. Thanks as well. Elk Dude as well. Thanks for popping in. Ori, thanks for popping in. I think Mama Rocks was also in for a bit.
She was,
well. Masuku also seen Back from the Dead. I think that's it. I may have missed some. Oh, a Friendly Press was also in. UK Dazzlers, but yeah, I think we covered about everyone there nearly. But yes, if you want to have good recipes, and if you want to know about pineapple and pizza, just go and see Paul.
Oh dear God! Shut up.
I'm taking the place of VJ now. I'm only kidding. But I do like pineapple and pizza. So
it's a travesty. I tell you, it is a travesty.
I'm British. What can I say? But anyway, thanks everyone, and we'll be back next week, because next week's actually, even though we had a bit of a break, it is actually 2nd anniversary of Midweek Gaming next week Wednesday. Technically, the actual date lines up for Thursday, but we do the show on Wednesdays. We do. So we should have Mr. Tushi, hopefully, if he's not working next week as well. And hopefully Animated Evil will be on next week as well. But yes,
he's a busy boy, though.
Yes, very busy they are. So yeah, thanks everyone, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. Thanks everyone.